Hello. Today I'm going to be taking a look at two knives that are very similar. The Benchmade Barrage and the Kershaw Blur. As for the Blur, I have the model in 154 cm and burnt orange aluminum handles. As for the Barrage, I have the new 581 model in M390 steel with G10 handles with an aluminum bolster. Both knives are very similar in size. We take a look. We have a cutting edge of just under 3.5 inches and a total length of almost 8 inches. We have a cutting edge of just over 3.5 inches and a total length of about 8.5 inches. Both knives feature assisted opening. The Benchmade features their axis lock, so pull back on this little nub here and it disengages a pin that sits against the tang of the blade, and you just give it a little push and then the spring takes over. The Blur is a liner lock, and again you just push the thumb studs and the spring takes over. I do like the speed and the kick on the Barrage a little bit better than the Blur. Both deploy really fast, but the Barrage, you can just feel it kick out. If you can see my hand, you can actually see my hand vibrate from the force of the blade. And something the Barrage can do that the Blur can't is if you pull back on the axis lock while it's closed, you can just shake the knife and it'll open. With the Blur, nothing. The detent and the spring keep it pretty well in place. The spring does a really good job of putting pressure to keep the knife closed, as well as the liner lock to keep the knife open. The liner does seem a little bit thin, but it does seem to do a really good job. I haven't had a problem with the knife closing on me, and it just seems pretty good. Now, the another thing that the Barrage has that the Blur does not is a safety. I honestly don't use the safeties on my my assisted opening knives, but if you press this little switch into place, you can no longer disengage the axis lock, which means you can no longer open the knife. The safety works both directions, both in open and when the knife is closed. So if you want to lock the knife open or you lock the knife closed, you can. This way it won't accidentally pop open in your pocket, but as much as I've carried this, it's never popped open in my pocket. I've only had this one for a little bit over a week, but I have had a mini Barrage for almost a year now. As for the handles, the Blur features anodized aluminum with a stainless steel liner, a partial stainless steel liner. I believe the partial stainless steel liner is there to help support the torsion bar for the speed-safe assisted opening mechanism. The handle is pretty well shaped, nice and ergonomic. Fits into the palm nicely. Get a nice 4-finger grip on it. The scales have this traction insert, which feels like a rubberized. Some kind of rubberized plastic, which your finger basically just grabs right onto. It's like a little tire tread or little sneaker sole. It does have a little bit of jimping on the top, which does do a fairly good job. The Barrage does not have any real jimping on it. But it does have these ribs on the side. The ribs on the side will grab your finger when you're holding the knife. Again, you also get a good 4-finger grip on the Barrage, and your finger isn't going to go anywhere on this on the ribs on the aluminum. I wish there was a little bit of jimping on top because it is very smooth on top here. but the ribs on the bottom do an adequate job adding some grip to the knife. The G10 is wonderfully sculpted. I believe they CNC mill this to get a consistent shape. The pocket clip on both knives is a black DLC coated pocket clip. I do like the Benchmade arrow clip a little bit better than Kershaw's clip. This is the same clip Kershaw puts on the Leak, but this is Benchmade's arrow clip. Just rides a little better in the pocket. If you can see, it's a little wider at the top than the Barrage's or the Blur's clip. The Blur's clip has a tendency to stop right here on the edge of your pants. So let me take this microfiber cloth so I can show you what I'm talking about. When putting the Blur in my pocket, it tends to stop here unless I actively force it all the way down. And it just makes the knife ride that much higher. Kershaw could have done a much better job with the pocket clip. The Barrage pocket clip carries nice and deep. Both knives feature a lanyard hole. Both knives, the lanyard hole is really tiny, so you have to use a little bit of thread or paracord innards to kind of fish the lanyard through. As you can see, I've put a lanyard on the Blur, but I'm still working on my lanyard for the Barrage. This one MSRP is about $220. This one MSRP is about $150, but this one you can get for about $170. This one you can get for about $80. I've even seen it cheaper. So for the price, this is a pretty good knife, but I do like the Benchmade Barrage a lot more. The Barrage is a little bit heavier than the Blur, but it just feels better in the hand, in spite of the fact that there is no jimping on top. Let me go ahead and zoom in, and we can get a little bit close-ups on each knife. You can see the Benchmade logo there on the blade, and the very, very lovely swedge and the blackened thumb stud. On this side of the blade, we actually have a first production run, number 764 out of 1,000. I guess that's just the number in their first production run. There will be much more than 1,000 of these made. See the nice texture in the aluminum bolster, kind of like a wood grain. And the texturing on the G10 is smooth, but you can see kind of a wood grain texture in it as well. This one does have stainless steel liners, partial stainless steel liners, and a backspacer. The Blur, here you can see a really good look at the traction inserts. This one is an open construction. And again, this one has a really nice swedge. This one is a recurve. I don't like recurves because I'm not that experienced sharpening recurves. But once I do have sharpened them a few times, I'm sure they'll grow on me. And if we take a look at this side of the knife, this is actually CPM 154 and not 154 CM. This one is the powdered version of 154 CM. And you can see the model number on here. And both knives are made in the United States. And you can see the pocket clip Kershaw puts on there. So again, thank you for watching.